one person says art is something, art installations are temporary, right? Someone else said art installations can be what? They can be moved, right? They are site specific, right? Let me start putting all those things down. So you said site specific. I know, right? All right, site specific. You said it can be temporary. What else? Can be moved, right? That kind of goes into these categories. What about cerebral? Well, now what do we mean when we say cerebral?
Make people think.
Yes. Can be thought-provoking, all right?
Interaction.
Interaction, good. What do we mean by that?
How do people react to it?
Speak a little louder, what?
How do people react to it?
Okay, that can be a couple things. How do people react to it, and also what else? The next one, what about how people interact with it, right? So if you want your audience to participate in some way, that can go into interaction as well, right? So what about process? Is that important?
And photo. And photo. Photo.
Photos and or
Video.
photos or video, right?
Is audio as well?
Yes, absolutely. So we say photo, audio, or video. I'm just going to put recorded, all right? So we can need a number of these factors to be part of what we consider to be an effective art installation. Give me some examples, some art installations that you may have encountered, that you may have seen. Think about some things that we said. Now, we already did a whole section, right, on what it means to have public art. Public art, or art in the public way. Can anyone think of an example of public art that may be considered an art installation?
Millennium Park, the little bean.
Okay, a little louder.
At Millennium Park, the little glass, well, the bean.
All right, the being, it's also called Cloud Gate at Millennium Park. That's one, right? That's it's a large sculpture. Is that three-dimensional? Is that in the round? Or is that a relief? It's in the round. You can walk 360 degrees around. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so that's one way. What about there's another place that's not too far in, like right off of Wabash. Anybody seen those?
Half the bodies without the neck.
Okay, okay, so there's these tall bodies, right? They're half bodies, they're kind of hollowed out, and they're oversized, right?
Right.
All right, so we want to think about, there's a lot of things. So we said that there are large bodies, and they're all over the place, right? They're staggered, right? And so there's a lot of them. That's an art installation. All right, that's by the artist Magdalena Acknowledge. Yes.
What about the at Millennium Park? What about the walls with the pictures on it?
Okay, so there's a number of art things that we have right downtown, right in the heart of the city. So they have those two large towers. They have the faces on it. They're lit, and they're showing all the different Chicagoans, right? So I remember I had a friend that did that. So they have these images, and they have a bit of a water display, right? So the water comes out of it at different times. There's a small little pool of water that you can kind of wade in, right? And that requires what? What is that? That is what? It's very site-specific. Those aren't, the two large ones aren't necessarily temporary, but the ones by the large bodies, that may be temporary. That artist actually, we've covered her before in class, she actually moves her works to different places, so it may be here for a period of time, but it may not stay. I don't know. It's interaction, right? Especially the one with the water, because you see families out there playing in the water and whatnot. It requires you to be an active participant with the work, huh? Okay, it's active. It's also, what about those large bodies? Is that cerebral?
Yeah.
All right, how so?
I think so, because it makes people think the water comes out at different times. Like one of the pictures may have someone with their mouth open, and then the water, it looks like it's coming out of their mouth, so it really makes you think about the display.
Okay, all right, and that's in that one piece. What about the large bodies? How is that cerebral? Does it get you to think about, you have these large anonymous bodies, right, that are in that area. Does it ever did you think that that's a thought-provoking image? Yes.
I say yes because it actually makes you think how the artist how the artist actually made that particular piece. Like what work did it go through to make that actually not scope, but mold that actual piece.
Okay, so you think about the artist's process, right? And actually it is a part of the interaction because the bodies are spread out enough that you can actually walk around them. You can actually stand in the center of them, right? You can stand them. People are taking pictures with them, right? You know, and it becomes a kind of, it activates a space. That's something that I don't have on here, but I want you to think about that when you're thinking about your projects. An art installation, how does it activate a space? You guys should write that down. How does it activate a space? So what you all are going to be asked to do as part of your project is to really think about in your individually and in your groups, you're going to make sure that you are hitting all of these, right? And what else do you think is going to be important in an art installation? How are we wrapping up talking about all the different concepts that we have gone over during the course of of this class? We talked about elements of design, principles of design. How is that important to this? Is it important at all? How so? How's it important?
Because the artists is allowed to express themselves.
Okay.
And I mean, when we think about, when you were speaking of controversial.
Okay. Give me more about controversial art. When we talk about controversy and controversial art, the artist has to come up with the what? The idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from inception, from the idea, he has to work through a certain number of things in order to get to it actually manifesting itself, right? To it coming to fruition, right? So you have to think about what? Process. And when you think about process, what kind of things you have to think about as an artist?
What to do, what would you need in material?
What would you do? What
Would you need material?
what kind of materials you need, right? So, isn't the choosing of the materials very important, or are very germane to telling the story? I mean, if you're trying to think of this as if it's a political piece, if it's a happy piece, satirical, right? If there's any, you have to think about what has to come first before you can get into any of these. You guys said the idea, right? But with an idea comes what?
The reaction of the people that actually look at that particular piece of art.
Okay, so maybe the artist has to think about how it's going to be received by their audience, but before they even get there, they have to.
What do you want to do to express it?
What do you
use to express it?
What?
The material that you use to express the piece.
All right. So what materials they have to make? They have to make some choices. They have to make some decisions, right? What kind of material is going to be used in order to create the art piece? Who is your audience, right? Who's your audience? You really need to, I mean, it depends. Is it going to be in a public setting? Is it? You should have a private kind of venue, right? Is it something that you want people to encounter one-on-one? Is it all right if a group of people encounter the artwork together? Is it something that's going to be audio? Is it something that's visual? Is it both? Right? Artist has to think about all of these other factors. What process or what medium is best going to tell the story of what they're trying to communicate? But part of telling the story, remember we were talking about storyboarding, right, for movies, right? And it said you're going to set up the shot, right? You're setting up the scene for your audience, right? Which means you have to have thought about, if you are creating a story, what do you have to have? A plot. Thank you. I mean, it's not like Seinfeld, right? Seinfeld has a show is based on nothing, right? And the artist, sometimes you can have an art where it's based on nothing, but many artists have it based on something. So we're talking about a concept or a theme.
How would it make you feel?
How would it make you feel, right? So we said, what are some of when we started early on in this term, we start saying that there may be a role of the artist in society. What are some of the roles of the artist in society? What are some of the roles of the artist in society? Okay, it could be for the artist to express themselves, or to what?
Persuade.
To persuade you to think about something, right? Could be to inform you. Could be to entertain you, right? So there's lots of different, roles that the artist has within society. When you think about persuasive things, what kind of things come to mind? We had a whole section where we talked about words and propaganda, right? And what is propaganda? It's to what? Persuade you to feel one way or another about something, right? Okay, so what are some examples that you can think of that best exemplify propaganda? Politics, that's huge, right? Isn't politics a really large avenue where it's always trying to get you to feel one way or another about a particular candidate or a particular, social matter, right?
Yes.
What are some other things in which propaganda is being utilized in order to persuade you? Huh? Okay, that's a form of, politics, yes? Advertising, right? You're all consumers, right?
Yeah.
You buy things, right? Somebody's always trying to sell you something. That is one of the largest ways in which we get propagandized to. And who do you think are creating these ads, right? These ads, these advertisements that are in newspapers.
Artists.
These are artists, right? There's lots of different ways in which the artist shows up in society, all right? And that's one of the ways in which artists show up in society is to be able to say, how are we best, if we know that we have a particular product. Somebody give me the name of a product. Give me a product.
Boom.
Excuse me? Kaboom? All right, I don't know what Kaboom is. What is Kaboom? Okay. All right, so Kaboom is a cleaning product, right? All right, and what kind of, and who do you think the audience, a predominant audience would be, a target audience would be? Housewives, or house husbands nowadays. House husbands. Huh? Housekeeper, people that have cleaning businesses, things of that nature, right? So, all of these things, it's like, you want to make sure that those commercials advertise to specific groups of people that are in that industry, right? Give me another product. Sprite? Okay, what about Sprite? Why not? Yeah, it's a product. So what is Sprite? What are we talking about? It's a soft drink. See, everybody drinks Sprite. Everybody drinks Sprite. All right? Everyone who likes a clear liquid that you can see through with some fizz and carbonation to it, right? All right, so that so you got a really wide demographic that you can get to, right? When you're advertising, you can advertise to whom? Children, adults, elders, teens, right? Try to get teenagers to drink water. It's a rough proposition. And so when you try, and so those companies are really try to go after the athletes, right? You can get the young athletes, but you want to try to, so certain demographics, they're going to make it fun and chic and hip and cool for whatever that demographic is. Like Gatorade, right?
The commercial Gatorade got a lot bigger and a lot more athletes actually drinking it, and it's going to be to everybody else drinking because they see their favorite athlete drinking it.
Okay, so now you hit on to something else. We're talking about endorsements, right? That's another way that you can appeal to somebody to say, hey, what's that guy's name? The basketball, he's always on the D Rose. D Rose is sitting on the bench. What is he doing on all this downtime? He's drinking Gatorade and listening to his skull candy earphones, right? And he's eating Wheaties in the morning.